So today I'm going to talk about programming languages, but not like we used to talk about them. We will not go deeper into every programming language, but we will talk about their applications, why we use certain programming languages and where do we use them mostly. Of course, I will touch the most popular programming languages. I will not discuss all of them, but I think that will be very interesting and very useful to you. Let us start with the terminology. High-level and low-level programming languages. First of all, we have to get clear what are they, then we'll touch library and what is framework. If we are ready, we will proceed with different other applications of programming languages like web application development, mobile app development, desktop, enterprise, and so on. Let's start with terminology. Imagine that we want to make a furniture for our new house. We can craft this furniture with simple tools, like shown in this picture, right? We can control every detail of our furniture, and this is possible. If we talk about programming language analogy, this is low-level approach or low-level programming language. So these are languages with which we can control computer with a very detailed control. High-level or higher-level programming languages is when, imagine now you go to a shop and buy certain tools, for example, for cutting or for doing whatever with wood. Now, these tools provide some ready solution for you, right? This is higher level. You cannot control so much details probably, but you do what you want to do and much faster. For example, languages like Java, C#, Python, JavaScript, they are higher level languages. Then the question is, what is a library? I thought how to explain that, and I think good explanation is if you go to a do-it-yourself shop, and in do-it-yourself, you are trying to select some components and to make, let's say, chair and table set. So you select your components and assemble your chair, and then you can add your table, and they're looking good. But then at some point you think, hey, I need also a shelf or a couch or a bed, and I want them to be in unified style with my chair and table with the same colors, same style overall. And that could be problematic because in this do-it-yourself store, you can lack those components. Then you have to think how you solve this problem. Either go low level, lower level, that means craft yourself those from a wood, or you go for another do-it-yourself store and try to find those components there. But there's no guarantee that you will find them. Eventually you can make it. This is, if we talk about programming language, this is a library. Now, what is framework? Framework is, think about IKEA store, where you have a lot of furniture. You can kind of pick a mix, and they have their internal standards. Today I have table and chairs, then I have a bookshelf, then I have a bed, and I can always add, and I know that they are in IKEA, for example, of a certain standard. Okay, so they fit each other. I can pick with the same style and color a furniture. So this is a framework. In programming languages or in programming development, we also have frameworks. Now let's proceed with the applications of programming languages, and you will see how useful this analogy is. One of the most or fastest developing topics is web development. Now in web we have two sides of that web development. First is front end and the backend. Now what's the difference? And the difference is Imagine you are attending a restaurant. When you enter the restaurant, you have nice reception, tables, design, all right? And you are approached by people and offered some interesting or tasty food. This is front end. This is what you see and what you use as a visitor of the restaurant. And now think about the kitchen. All the management which is there in the kitchen. Supplies, right? All the food preparation process and so on. This is backend. And we usually don't see that backend. If we talk about web development, frontend is what you see in your browser. Imagine that you are using Instagram. So the design, all this user interface and the experience you have there, like buttons, you click, you write in some text in some boxes, you scroll down the page. This is front-end experience. And front-end developers work with technologies like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, to make that happen, to design the page and to make it functional. So HTML, CSS, we can argue, but they are not like programming languages, they are coding languages. HTML makes the structure of your page. CSS adds styling, like colors, like sizes, and so on. And JavaScript makes your web page alive. It makes it dynamic. You can have buttons, you now click on the button and something happens. This is done by JavaScript. But let us agree that, or remember that, all these technologies, they run in your browser, like Chrome, like Firefox, like Edge, and so on, Safari. Now, to make development process easier, these are programming languages. Of course, we have developed frameworks and libraries. So the most popular libraries are React, Vue, and there is a framework, and there is a framework which is called Angular. Now these are libraries and a framework. React is created and maintained by Facebook. Vue is one person. You can check that. I don't remember his name, sorry, but it's maintained by a community right now. And Angular is maintained by Google. Now, why do they exist? Why cannot we do that with pure JavaScript? Because it's very similar. Remember the case with the furniture? We can do that with a higher level programming language, but it's easier to go to do it yourself and select those components which help you to make your furniture. This is what React and Vue help you to do. And Angular is even further. It's a framework, so it has its own standards. So let's say developing becomes faster and developing becomes more like stable, if you wish. All of them are actively used and you can read about them. And of course, they also use, we can call it a variation of JavaScript, which is called TypeScript and CoffeeScript. Like TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript. It adds additional features to that language. I'll not go deeper into that. I can, but this is not the session where I want to talk about that. Now, backend. What is backend? Backend is what happens in the kitchen. So what is the analogy of the kitchen in coding? This is server. So this is server-side scripting. For example, if you comment in Instagram, where your comment is being stored, right? In a database. Where is that? It's in a server. And there are a lot of processes which we have in the server. Actually, it could be that 80-90% of all processes are in the backend. Now, which languages are used programming to program the backend. The most popular ones could be Java, right? So you can use, for example, Python for that. You can use C#, you can use PHP, Ruby, right? And so on. There are, of course, other languages to do the backend stuff there. And what's important that we can use also JavaScript now to program backend of our application. But for that we have a special framework which is called Node.js. And we can write here all the frameworks which are related to that. For example, for Ruby we have Rails. For PHP it's Laravel, right? For C#, ASP.NET, .NET, right? For Python we have popular framework which is Django, and also Flask. For Java, for example, Spring. So these are programming languages themselves. And in the brackets or parentheses, I have indicated the frameworks which are specially designed for backend or developing backend solutions for web applications, web apps. Note here that JavaScript can be used for frontend, and of course its libraries, and also Node.js, which has similar syntax as a JavaScript, is a framework which is based on JavaScript and makes easy for those who already know JavaScript to code backend solutions, right? Of course, we have to have databases, because when you like something or you write your comment or you add to the favorites your favorite music in Spotify, this should be stored somewhere. So two most popular are SQL based and Mongo. They're different database vendors, if we can call them like this. They're, for example, PostgreSQL, SQLite, MySQL, SQL Server. And for Mongo, it's a bit different type of database. We can call it like semi-structured. Again, I don't want to go into details. We can do that in some videos. But these are also very important. Now, when you are choosing your first programming language, the question is which one to choose. It depends on what you want to do. The easier could be entrance to frontend, also to the backend actually, but in backend you have to know more technologies. Here, for example, JavaScript is more like scripting language. Java is very powerful, large, object-oriented programming language. So as C#. Python is doing very well now also with Django framework. In backend, for example, the same Instagram was done by Django. YouTube was created with Python Django. And then Spotify, for example, Pinterest, they were all and are all powered by Python. So Python is becoming really very popular also. And of course you can use other ones like PHP, Ruby. Ruby is a bit declining in popularity, but that's also a very interesting solution. Well, there are some complaints from programmers about PHP because of its syntax. I have written things there and I would agree. But again, this is not the place where we discuss the details of those languages. And Node.js is really growing technology you can look into. Now, let's go and continue with mobile development. Very popular because we have now a lot of mobile applications. Itself, mobile application is a front-end solution because it's like here and we use it as a front-end. It can have the same backend which was developed for the web. I'll not talk about how that is done, but that is how we can do that. And for Android, historically Java was the language, but now also Kotlin, which, if I'm not mistaken, provided by JetBrains, it's a Czech company, I think. Now, Kotlin is accepted by Google Alphabet as a language, and Kotlin is very well also does with Java. So these two languages. So if you want to be an Android developer, you should look into Kotlin Java. If you want to be an Apple device, mobile smartphone developer, then it was Objective-C. But I have heard, and honestly, maybe that was not very great language to deal with, but now there is excellent language which is called Swift. So now Apple has Swift, a new language for developing on Apple and Mac platforms. This is very nice language. And if you want to make native Apple applications for Apple devices, then Swift is a language to consider. Now, does that mean I have to create two versions of an application, one for Android and Apple, and probably for also Windows phones? Unfortunately, or fortunately, yes, but there are also alternative solutions which are called cross-platform. For example, if you already know React and you are already developing front-end applications with React, there's so-called React Native, which is a cross-platform solution. That means you develop an application which can be both run in Android and Apple environment, right? And there is also another one. They're different, this kind of cross-platform. I just show one of the maybe most popular. If you know, let's say C#, if you already work with C#, then there is a Xamarin framework for creating cross-platform mobile applications. Now, you can ask me, what is better, to do a cross-platform development or go for native? Well, the answer is, it depends how important the application is for you. If you are, let's say, a bank and want a dedicated mobile application, then most probably you will go for native development, because they will be lighter, probably faster in certain cases. Yeah, and of course you have a dedicated app and you want them to run very smooth on every device and you want to control all the details there. Then most probably you will do two different developments. But what if you're just company and you just want to create your ordinary mobile application? In this case, cross-platform development is quite okay. And cross-platform also develops, and by time it could be that they develop even further and the development could be like easier. So if you already know React or C# or maybe other languages, you can also do cross-platform mobile development. Let's proceed with the desktop. Honestly, desktop app development is not the most popular, probably. It has its own place. Of course, we have a lot of desktop applications, like, for example, Discord. They have also desktop application and it's very popular and people use that a lot. So for Windows, if we talk about desktop, then most probably this is C#, yeah, with a .NET framework or Core. And of course, we can develop apps in C++, in C, of course, in Java, and so on. For Macs, Swift, and of course, again, C++, C, Java. For Linux, C++, C, Java. But also now, Windows developed C#.NET Core, now it's called, to a new level. That means now .NET Core So C#.NET Core is a framework which is cross-platform. That means you can make a console applications for Macs using C# and .NET Core framework. The same is true for Linux. And this is developing quite fast, and community is also picking up. It's growing, it's open source, and this is a very interesting move from Microsoft, and probably a very wise move, and we'll see that by time. But .NET Core environment is also growing. So that means if you want to go for desktop, you can consider these languages for those platforms. Now, there are also enterprise applications, like, for example, if you go to a bank and they check your account, what is the software responsible for doing all these processes? Historically, Java was very popular there, and still it's very popular. So Java, C# is an enterprise-grade language. Of course, you can do them in, again, C++, you can do that in Python and other languages, but I would say the most popular are these ones. So if you want to go into creating banking applications, billing systems, I don't know, telecom systems, then these languages are to consider. And embedded. Another type of apps are embedded apps. And this is very easy to explain. We have today processors, chips, almost everywhere. I'm now talking with you, and I'm talking directly to the webcam. I'm talking in webcam, we have a small processor or chip. Here in my microphone, we have it. In my mouse, we have it. Of course, in computer, in refrigerators, in robotics, in a lot of places we now have processors and chips. What does it mean? If we have processors and chips, that means somebody must write program for them. So if you're looking towards robotics, engineering, hardware, programming, then languages like C++ and C, which are low-level languages, are probably the first to consider. Of course, we can talk about assembly language here. It's even lower level language than C++ and C, but C++ and C are mostly used for those applications. For sure, we can use other languages like Python, like Java to do these jobs. Yes, we can, but I'm writing here the most popular. Game development. Very interesting and I would say rapidly growing field of IT, because gamification now is one of the most promising technologies, because we are gamifying education, studies, work, and so on. For example, medicine, you can train medical personnel by applying certain games in virtual reality, augmented reality. One of the most popular game engines are Unreal, Unity, Godot, and Roblox. Unreal is suited, so I will not discuss which is now better or in certain applications, but usually if we are talking about AAA grade first-person shooters with super rendering capabilities, usually this is Unreal. Unreal requires C++ as a programming language. Of course, you can use Blueprint as a visual block coding programming language, but this is a different story. I'll touch just pure programming languages. If we are talking about Unity game engine, then C# is dominating that platform. So if you know C# already, go for Unity. If you know C++, consider going into Unreal. Or now we see also fast development of an engine which is called Godot. there, it's interesting that Godot can use C++, C#, Python, and other languages. So it is like more flexible, and I would say, from what I see, Godot is also developing, so you can consider that. Roblox, for example, uses Lua. This is a specific language which is used actively in game industry, scripting. But we should remember that Lua is not probably suitable for many other applications. Well, we can debate here, but I'm talking like most probably and in most cases. Okay, so we have two more fields to consider: bots and specialty apps. Without bots today, working is hard. We have bots in media, we have bots in social networks, we have bots in chatting, we have bots for serving our clients, and so on, for serving communities. Bots are important and they are developing also fast. So one of the most popular languages for bot development today is Python. So if you know Python, creating bots will be accessible to you. Of course, we can do that in other languages like Java, C++, and for example, Node.js, it's like JavaScript, and we can do in other languages also, but especially for prototyping, Python is, I would say, the most popular today. Now, where we can use also Python more? Python also can be used and is very popular in AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning and data analytics. Because it has special libraries, dedicated libraries to deal with big data, with machine learning algorithms, and they are being supported by a large community. So Python, then there's another language, R, which was specifically designed for statistical jobs and data analytics jobs. This is also a great language, but it has application limited to data analytics, machine learning only. So if you know, for example, Python, you can do game development, bot development, I can do backend for web applications, you can do enterprise grade applications, and of course data analytics and machine learning. So it's like more flexible. But R is also a great language. I have used R a lot myself. That's why I can tell that it's really also a powerful language for machine learning and data. Now, there is a speed issue. Let us say you have trained certain model for image recognition or computer vision, right? Usually you start prototyping them in Python, R, and similar languages. But when you put them into production and you want them to work on very super high speeds, then usually these apps are being rewritten in languages like C++. Java is also used here and other languages also, but I will keep it like clean and we'll just concentrate on 3 of them today. So if you consider machine learning, artificial intelligence, let's leave Java also here. These languages are the ones you can consider. Here I want to complete my list of applications. Hope that is useful for you, and you can always check. You can always check popularity of programming languages by checking certain indexes. As far as I know, 2 of them, which I check usually, popular, are TOB index, and I like more PyPL. And of course, you can also check Stack Overflow survey Programming, or it's called Survey 2020. It's called Stack Overflow Developer Survey. And here you can check and analyze which technologies are most popular, for example, most loved, dreaded and wanted languages. Here is the list. So if someone writes or uses that language, does that developer, programmer loves that language, and like likes are here, dislikes are here. And you can see most dreaded language and most wanted languages. You can have a look there. And here is the PYPL, Popularity of Programming Language Index, which shows like how the dynamics of popularity of different languages. And we see that, hey, Python is first place, then we have Java, JavaScript, C#, and so on. You can look into TOB index, but what is my main message today? That we should not concentrate on the programming language. Programming language is a tool which helps you to develop applications and solutions for humans and for machines. I think we should look at technologies or at fields of IT or development we want to develop in. So if I want or I like front-end development more, like I like designing websites, I like making them functional for humans, I like nice user interfaces, I like to create excellent user experience, then I will most probably look into this programming languages, libraries, and frameworks. For the backend, if I like, authentication, I like databases, I like working on the server level, then these are the languages we can consider, right? And here it's not like very straightforward which language is the best. It's very tricky question. Well, some of the languages are younger, modern, some of them are older, but let's remember that we have frameworks. And here you can look at the, if you want to get a job, for example, in this field, which frameworks, which languages are more popular in your area, in your country, all right? Because if, let us say, for example, PHP is not popular in your area and you go for that, then obviously you will need to find a job somewhere else. So this kind of considerations are useful, right? And if you want to do mobile apps, you know what to search for, which languages to start with. So I think this talk helps you to start choosing your programming language. And again, the message is not concentrate on which language is the best language, because it will be very hard for you to figure that out, almost impossible. Better to concentrate on technologies, know what you want and what is more interesting for you, and then pick up the languages and just start right now to code and develop applications, because it's fun, it's really very interesting and engaging process. I wish you good luck and see you next time. Bye-bye.